The Seahawks finished 0-4 against the NFC South a year ago, but showed their grit on Sunday, getting out 37-27 victory against old nemesis Andy Dalton and the Carolina Panthers. Nick Lee and I break down the first half slugfest that turned into a second half knockout right now.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, and now for your lead story on Locked On Seahawks. I want to welcome you to a special post-game Sunday edition of Locked On Seahawks. My name is Rob Rang, and I'm taking the wheel today along with my friend and longtime co-host on the podcast, Nick Lee. We are filling in today for Corbin Smith, who is taking some much-deserved time off to spend a little bit of time with some loved ones. That gives Nick and I a rare opportunity to break down the wounded warriors that are the now 2-1 Seattle Seahawks after their win Sunday over the visiting Carolina Panthers. And before we get rolling here, a word of thanks to the 12s everywhere for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week, whether you're listening in on your drive home from a raucous Lumen Field in Seattle or in Kenneth Walker III's hometown of Arlington, Tennessee. Thank you, as always, so much for joining us. Nick, the Seahawks entered this game down both of their starting offensive tackles in Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, right guard Phil Haynes, their best all-around tight end in Will Dissly, their most versatile defensive back in Kobe Bryant, the runner-up to Defensive Rookie of the Year a season ago, of course, and Enrique Woolen. And the infirmary report only got a little bit longer on Sunday, with their most experienced offensive lineman, Damian Lewis, going down in the second quarter, edge rusher Darrell Taylor going down, Trey Brown going down, all in the span of a couple of minutes. But still, the resiliency that they showed in the victory on the road at Ford Field a week ago against the Detroit Lions showed up yet again here in the second half in this victory over the visiting Carolina Panthers. And I think that it was especially impactful and kind of resonated, I think, with the crowd, just because of the fact that they were celebrating the 10-year anniversary of their Super Bowl victory over the Denver Broncos, who got thumped by double digits yet again on this Sunday. So, Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir. Welcome. It's great to see you as always. And what were your big takeaways of Sunday's 37-27 victory over the Carolina Panthers?
Well, yeah, second half surge kind of tells the story there. The Seahawks kind of sleptwalked through the first half offensively. There was a lot of frustrating wasted opportunities there, especially in the red zone. And then they took the role of Undertaker in the second half and just burst open the casket. And the second half drive results went thusly. It went field goal, touchdown, punt, touchdown, kneel down. I mean, that says the story right there. And I think despite the injuries piling up, especially along the offensive line looks like, the Civil War medical tent at the end there. The Seahawks are deeper, I think, than a year ago. I think that they've shown that. Of course, you just expect the Seahawks to be a better roster top to bottom at this moment in time than the Carolina Panthers. And I think the rare occurrence, especially for Seahawks fans, is they actually played like it for the most part in this game. They started off a little bit slow. I would like, and really the game shouldn't have even been that close. You look at the first 4 trips to the red zone, all resulted in field goals. You even split 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals there, and this game is an absolute laugher. So there's still some things to fix. Seahawks were 3 out of 13 on third downs, with Carolina going 10 for 19 on third downs. The Seahawks still win by multiple scores, so that tells a big part of the story as well.
No, I 100% agree with you. And I think that, as you said, in the second half, the Undertaker reference, I think, is an excellent one, because that's exactly what it felt like. It did feel a little bit like the Seahawks were sleepwalking. And I think that maybe they have been knocked to sleep a little bit by Carolina Panthers front that, Corbin and I kind of talked about a little bit, in the days leading up to this game, that even though this game was obviously going to be played in Seattle and the Panthers didn't have as formidable of a pass rush on paper as what the Detroit Detroit Lions did. Everybody knew about Aiden Hutchinson, but Brian Burns and Justin Houston, Derek Brown along the defensive line as well gave Seattle plenty of fits. And then when they had as many injuries as they had, then the CBS television crew made it a point to kind of acknowledge the fact that Seattle, 4/5 of their offensive line was out, and the elder statesman of the bunch at that point was the center Evan Brown, who of course is in his third start for the Seahawks, and so didn't have a lot of experience there. So, kind of a tip of the cap to Geno Smith being able to, just as he did against Detroit a week ago, was able to kind of buy some time, step up into the pocket, and make some big plays. And I thought that Seattle's willingness to kind of continue to pound the rock, to continue to run the ball, whether it was Ken Walker III, whether it was Zach Charbonnet, using their tight ends creatively. Sometimes they were lining them up as basically extra blockers on the outside. A couple of times they lined them up in the backfield, and then just a lot of little designed rollouts, get Geno Smith moving, get those pass rushers with a different target rather than just kind of pinning their ears back and going a straight line. They had to kind of cut to the left or cut to the right, and Seattle was able to get the ball out relatively quickly to be able to take advantage of Carolina's aggression and be able to make some plays over the top. Was there any other points about this game that you want to mention before we kind of switch over to one of the things that I'm excited about as far as our 3 up and 3 down and some of the players that we thought deserved game balls in this, again, 37-27 victory that puts the Seahawks in, obviously above 500, but a little bit of the driver's seat with the San Francisco 49ers playing obviously very good ball, but Seattle, as early as it might seem, has positioned themselves for a return to the postseason.
Yeah, Pete Carroll mentioned that they were going to be aggressive this week, and I really think that they lived up to the billing. In fact, they could have even been a bit more aggressive, but things like pushing the ball downfield to DK Metcalf was refreshing to see, especially in that first half. And then that double A gap blitz with the linebackers forcing that 4th and 18, that was a lot of fun. Look, this is still a flawed team. Let's not kid ourselves. It's still a flawed team. You hate to give up that late touchdown. It would have been fun to win 37-27 or 37-20. You hate to give up that kind of garbage touchdown, and plenty of things to fix, especially defensively. However, there's some really encouraging signs. For the first time this year, Seattle outgained their opponent. For the first time this year, or they set a season high for sacks with 3, and they also allowed less than 3.5 yards per carry for the second time in 3 games already this year. So really, some things are coming together on defense that they're flaws, but I think that they're not mortal flaws, like mortal wounds that they were perhaps last year. I think if there's a bit more scar tissue and maybe some healing to those wounds than there were last year. Still certainly an imperfect team, but really a team that, yes, the Panthers, you should be better than the Panthers at this point, but right now the Seahawks played like a team that should beat the Panthers by multiple scores. And yeah, they've put themselves at least in the driver's seat for a wild card spot. I mean, early on.
Yeah, and that to me, I think is the kind of the perfect segue for our first advertisement. There's going to be a couple of them. Normally our lead host Corbin Smith is the the maestro that kind of plays these strings. I'm going to switch over and kind of do that here. But as you said with your reference there again a couple of moments ago to the Undertaker, it almost felt like it was game time for the Seahawks after halftime. And again, Game Time would be our first ad read here. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. If you've ever been on the hunt for sports or concert tickets at the last minute, the process can be anxiety provoking. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you're about to have. If you're wanting to see the Seahawks battle the Giants on Monday Night Football in the Midlands, for example, using Game Time's awesome flash deals feature and detailed stadium map, you can find awesome seats for under $90 right now, and it's super easy. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, and the Game Time guarantees means that you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will actually credit you 110% for the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen every day. Every day, Corbin's going to be joining me tomorrow for our latest Monday Musings episode, where, again, we will be breaking down the Seahawks' 37-27 victory over the Carolina Panthers and their longtime nemesis that is Andy Dalton. All right, Nick, let's talk game balls. I'm giving you the mic, sir. Who on offense, in your opinion, is most deserving of a Pete Carroll game ball?
Well, I wish this was the part of the show where we can make edits to our video, like having sunglasses descend upon me, because I called it with Ken Walker. Ken Walker the third, K9 himself. He was my pick to click in the pregame show with Corbin on Friday. And I said this is an opportunity for him to have a breakout game, his first true breakout game of the year. He didn't quite get to the century mark like I kind of called for, but man, he was really close. And really just marched through the Panthers like Anakin / Darth Vader for the Jedi Temple, just mowing guys down. And really, I've heard you, especially Rob, mention Ken Walker and Barry Sanders. And I know that kind of gets some hackles up, but like I see it. I see the suddenness. I see the change of direction. I see the patience. That one play where he just absolutely put that edge defender in a blender before cutting outside. I mean, just the sudden, the quick, the change direct, everything. I mean, he's truly like one of the, I'm not saying he's a lock for Canton like, Barry Sanders, but like you just see that the traits are there for a rare throwback running back. And he just was absolutely on display today. 5.4 yards a carry, 97 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I'm glad I wasn't playing him in fantasy this week because he certainly put up a nice number for you fantasy people. So yeah, Ken Walker the third is my game ball on offense.
Well, I can't disagree with you on that one. I think that you do deserve some credit. I wish that I could do, the video overlay and put some sunglasses on you. I thought that you are the king of the pop culture references. I thought for sure that there might be a Gladiator reference there because there was, on one of those jump cuts when he kind of got off to the side there, and he kind of, did his little twirl and he looks up at the crowd and he raises his hands up, and I just wanted to scream, "Are you not entertained?" Just by the way that he just was making people miss and juking and jiving. I mean, he was absolutely dynamic. And you're right. I mean, I have used that reference to Barry Sanders. And again, that's with incredible respect to the, incomparable Barry Sanders. And yet here I am using that comparison because I just don't see guys that have this type of make you miss. There are very few players. I've been so fortunate, Nick, over the years to go to an awful lot of football games. And there are very few guys in today's NFL anymore that I'm willing to throw down my own hard-earned money to just watch a player because he is that special. But to me, Ken Walker III is one of those guys. So I can't disagree with you here. I'm going to shift gears to another skill position player. And I think that Geno Smith almost always deserves this recognition. But I'm going to go with DK Metcalf because I have been among those who have criticized DK Metcalf often on our show. And there were some moments in this game as well that I thought that he could have played a little bit better. I still want to see a guy who's 6'3", 230 pounds jump up when there's a jump ball situation rather than fall down when there's a jump ball situation for him. But still, I thought that the poise that he demonstrated, I mean, he was as quiet and as focused as I've ever seen him in this game. I thought that the call, or they said that it was a block in the back, I thought was a BS call. I thought that was, a textbook hitting the guy on the side. And that's exactly what I want to see from a guy who has his size and physicality. But play in and play out, when Geno Smith needed to make a big throw, it was DK Metcalf was the one who was making those plays. So I wanted to definitely acknowledge him. Now on the defensive side of the ball, we acknowledge some of the skill position players on offense. On the defensive side of the ball, Nick, who is somebody that really jumped out to you?
Well, I'm going to go Jarran Reed. He from the very get-go in this game, he clearly was on another level. And boy, if we get this kind of Jarran Reed, for the majority of the games this season moving forward, holy smokes, 7 tackles, a sack and a half, tackle for loss, a pass defended, constant pressure from the interior, which is something is commonly seen in Seattle as a dry day in January. I mean, that's and then he did the Michael Bennett hip swivel dance, which was the cherry on top, he did the perfectly appropriate amount of pumps without getting a flag, and in the post game, he credited Red Bryant's speech during the pregame on Saturday, and as the kind of inspiration for him. And he just played like a man on fire. Just his hair was on fire, a man on a mission. And yeah, so Jarran Reed, interior wrecker, something that the Seahawks have just desperately lacked since the 2013 era of the Seahawks. Legion of Boom. Part of that Legion of Boom was they had some really good defensive linemen. So I'm not saying Jarran Reed's going to be all pro, but boy, if we can bottle this Jarran Reed up that he got today and get it for a majority of the time moving forward, that is a huge development.
It really is. And again, I 100% agree with you. I thought that he was an absolute difference maker in this game. The interior pressure, I love the effort, downfield. People who were watching the game either at Lumen Field or those who were watching on television may have noticed it was Jarran Reed who was 12 yards downfield that helped get the tackle on Miles Sanders. That actually knocked Miles Sanders out of the game for a little while, Carolina's running back. I mean, just to see a big man moving that far downfield in pursuit, it is rare. So that was impressive to me. I think also what's impressive when you see the number 5 overall pick, a guy like Devin Witherspoon, who at 180 pounds is arguably Seattle's most physical defensive back. And that says a lot when you consider the hitters that are Quandre Diggs. Julian Love made some big hits in this game, had a couple of misses as well, which we'll be talking about, shortly. But still, I think that Devin Witherspoon so far has been every bit what you would hope for as a Seahawk fan. There've been so much talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba, and yes, Devin Witherspoon, the player selected, of course, ahead of him, that has been the kind of difference maker that the Seahawks were hoping for. And I think that's especially critical because, as we talked about, Rick Woolen was out of this game. Trey Brown goes out in the second quarter of this game. Mike Jackson winds up playing a significant amount of time. Kobe Bryant is out of this game. I mean, the Seahawks were down, and while it was Andy Dalton and kind of a mismatch of wide receivers out there, still, this was a game that Carolina, had an opportunity to win, especially with all the injuries that the Seahawks were facing. So I thought that the big plays from Jarran Reed in the line of scrimmage and a little bit behind that, and Trey Brown in coverage was absolutely dynamic. I know that I saw some statistics post game that really put in perspective how well that Witherspoon was. And so, did you have those numbers off the top of your head? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Devin Witherspoon was targeted. This is per Football Focus. He was targeted 11 times, and allowed just 3 catches for 19 yards and, quote, had as many pass breakups as first downs allowed. So I would say that's a pretty efficient day there, Rob.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, he was spectacular. And I think that, again, it's just really exciting to imagine the possibilities out there. You have Rick Woolen on one side, you got Devin Witherspoon on the other. You get Trey Brown, you get Mike Jackson, you got Artie Bush, you get Kobe Bryant, all those players back. Then really this could be the secondary that's going to help that pass rush just get a little bit more teeth to it. And then finally, last but not least, I mean, this felt like this was a slugfest early on. It was the Jason Myers show early on as far as Seattle scoring. I would assume that I'll just throw it out there right now. To me, he would be one of the special teams players that deserves the game ball. I'm also going to go with DJ Dallas. I thought the energy that he provided from the get-go, Seattle received the opening kickoff, and while basically the ball went out of the back of the end zone, DJ Dallas at least kind of gave a little bit of a flinch, like he was going to hit some guys early on, and just the energy that he brought. To me, he's one of those kind of glue guys in the locker room. I thought the energy that he provided on kick returns, I thought really helped Seattle, but certainly Jason Myers and Michael Dixon as well. In a game that was as tight as this one was, I think we have to give a little bit of love to the special teamers as well. What do you think, Nick?
100%. My pick for this game was 20-17 Seahawks, mostly expecting a slog and a slugfest that it did start out to be. And yeah, Jason Myers tied a franchise record with 5 field goals. So I mean, you can't fault that at all. You can't pick that apart. And DJ Dallas, is he the most electric, talented player in the field? No, but he is a glue guy. I love that. He's that guy that every is one of those, like, every good team needs a DJ Dallas. And so I'm 100% in agreement.
Every good team needs a DJ Dallas. Every chubby guy could use an app like DoorDash. And so are you missing the syrup for your pancakes or just run out of your favorite coffee creamer? With DoorDash grocery delivery, you can get what you want right when you need it. You've trusted DoorDash to deliver your restaurant favorites, and now you can get grocery delivery that actually delivers too. With thousands of grocery stores to choose from, you'll find the best in your neighborhood and boost your local economy with each and every order. You get exactly what you ordered, or we'll make it right. So sit back, enjoy more quality groceries just like you picked them yourself. Want even more value? You can save on all of your grocery and restaurant favorites with a $0 delivery fee on all eligible orders with a DoorDash membership. With easy substitutions right in the app and best in-class customer support, DoorDash delivers groceries exactly how you want it. Get 50% off your first DoorDash order. That's up to a $20 value when you use the code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout. Limited time offer and terms do apply, but let's be clear, that's 50% off, up to $20, no minimum subtotal, and zero delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code LOCKEDONNFL. Don't forget, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for 50% off of your first order with DoorDash. Thanks again for all of you out there for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen every day. Everydayers, Corbin will be joining me tomorrow for our latest Monday Musings matchup, or Monday Musings episode, where we're going to be breaking down the Seahawks 37-27 victory over the Carolina Panthers that put the Seahawks now 2-1 on the season, a 2-game winning streak, and now 1-1 at Lumen Field. All right, Nick, in my scouting world, we often talk about who is moving up the board, who is slipping down the board. If we were to take a microscopic kind of look at this game, microscopic, not macroscopic, who jumps out to you as a player whose stock is moving up the most after today's big 37-27 win?
Well, to avoid, naming someone who we gave a game ball to, and DK Metcalf, who does deserve that because his first 100-yard game since December 4th, played banged up. I'm going to go with a guy. He has. I'm going to insert a middle name. His name is Jake Bleeping Bobo. That play, just the most electric one catch for 5 yards, and one of the most electric one catch for 5 yards in franchise history, at least in the regular season. Just the electricity it brought to the stadium, just the place went crazy when he caught that, and it wasn't just a little catch in space and kind of dance into the end zone. It was a very impressive, back of the end zone, toe drag, swag, control. Just a perfect NFL catch in the back of the end zone. So give me Jake Bobo as finally getting on the board and really announcing his presence with authority, made the roster, an underdog. We've heard the story, and he was the darling of the preseason, and now making an impact and really salted that game away with that fantastic catch.
Yeah, he really did. That's the thing is that, at that point, this game was back and forth. It felt like Carolina could absolutely steal this victory. And then that's the game. That's the score that puts Seattle up, pending the Jason Myers extra point, 37-20 with only 5 minutes to go. It really salted things away. And so that certainly was an impressive play by Bobo. And as you said, just the hand-eye coordination, the dragging the feet, and he just makes it look so easy. And that to me is one of the things that really makes him a standout, and I think a perfect player to kind of highlight as far as a 3 up, 3 down kind of a thing. I'm going to shift to the defensive side of the ball, and I got to give Corbin some credit. I've been a Darrell Taylor fan for a long time. Been kind of talking about his speed, his upfield pass rush potential. When Darrell Taylor went down with yet another injury, it was Boye Mafe who was standing out before and certainly stood out after. Played out at that left edge rushing role, plays also on the right side as well. And it didn't matter which side that he was on. He was making big plays. So I don't have the statistics here in front of me. I know that he got to Andy Dalton as often as anybody, with the possible exception of Jaron Reed, but certainly was an impactful in this game. And I don't know that the Seahawks win this game without the pass rush that Boye Mafe provides. So if you had to kind of put me on the spot, I would say for me, my game ball, at least on the defensive side, would have been Boye Mafe, number 53. Anybody else that you want to give a little bit of acknowledgement, a little bit of love to at this point?
Well, to have our third up here, I'll go Jordan Brooks. Might not be as sexy, but dude was everywhere. I briefly had to turn on the radio to drive to my mother-in-law's house here, and so I was listening to Dave Wyman and Steve Rabel call it. And Dave Wyman was complimenting him, just like, this guy's everywhere. He just makes plays. He's so consistent, and he never makes a bad play. He's always in the right spot. And that's a high praise. And 9 tackles, half a sack today. And he's clearly benefiting from having Bobby Wagner next to him. And so Jordan Brooks fully back from his injury and fully back in this defense and still a force of nature. I mean, the Seahawks really have, it was really great today with the Super Bowl celebration with Bobby Wagner playing that role, but also Jordan Brooks, the up and coming, truly next great linebacker in Seahawks history, I think. And today just kind of showed that.
I agree with you, and I love that. You mentioned the Seahawks in the play-by-play team. Obviously Dave Wyman knows linebackers and Seahawk linebackers specifically as well as anybody, and I have to agree. What I saw on watching the telecast, Jordan Brooks was all over the field, and just what a remarkable comeback that he has demonstrated to this point. But I agree that he looks like he's playing freer. He doesn't look like he has all the responsibilities, just locating the football and running to it, and letting his natural athletic ability really take over. The physicality that he's demonstrated. I mean, he had some knockdown hits in this game. So I think that he deserves definitely some acknowledgement in this football game as well. All right. Now, as I said, it's a stock up and stock down. So unfortunately, we got to, mention some of the players that didn't do so well. And it's a lot easier to do so when you're saying, hey, go get him next time, but we got the win. Is there anybody out there who jumps out at you as like, well, the Seahawks got the win, but this guy wasn't necessarily the biggest reason why that they were able to get that victory? Anybody that immediately jumps out in your mind?
Well, I think both tackles had a rougher game, and we Corbin and I talked about this, and especially Stone Forsythe, I think sticks out. He allowed at least 1 sack, and it just kind of got bent down in the pocket and gave up that sack. And we were wondering this week, because they did so well against the Lions, do the Panthers now have film on kind of what the Seahawks did differently to have that success with backup tackles and exploit that? And I think to an extent they did. I mean, the Panthers are not the cupboard is not bare for the Panthers as far as pass rushing talent. Brian Burns is a stud. So both tackles, I think, had a bit of a step back, which it was still to be expected. I don't think it's fair to expect success they had against the Lions each week and being backup tackles. Hopefully they get healthier along the offensive line, because get that extra day on Monday Night Football next week. But I think both tackles, especially Jake Curran, and also I think Stone Forsythe specifically had a rough game. But you're hoping that you don't need that again, because the tackles will hopefully be, at least Cross will be healthier next week.
That's what you're hoping for, because I have to agree with you. I thought Jake Curran was okay. I thought the Stone Forsythe struggled at times. He's just a big man. And a lot of times for people who have never played the line of scrimmage or don't focus much on it, I think that sometimes they assume that when you're as big as Stone Forsythe at 6'8", 320 pounds, and you should just be able to maul people at the line of scrimmage. But when you're that tall, it's really hard to get much leverage. And the Seahawks really struggled over and over again to get much push, especially in the left side of the line in the running game. And I think that there was at least 2 sacks that the Stone Forsythe gave up. And when Damian Lewis went down with the injury early on, and Ben Brown came in as his replacement left guard, I mean, it was the very next snap that Brian Burns kind of gave a little inside out move and just basically whipped Stone Forsythe and hit Geno Smith pretty hard. That basically resulted in a punt at that point, and one of Seattle's ugliest possessions in this game. I do want to give some credit to the fact that, again, you're missing 4/5 of your offensive line. You're working on backups against a guy that you and I both think, Nick, that could be a Pro Bowl kind of a player in Brian Burns. You got to give a little bit of a tip of the cap to the fact that they only gave up the 2 sacks in this game. But I thought that on the flip side, from as far as a players moving up, or in this case coaches moving up, I think you got to give some credit to Shane Waldron, to Andy Dickerson, the offensive line coach, that they were creative. They did move the pocket. They did allow or have Seattle's tight ends come in to kind of help them. I think that they acknowledged that this was going to be a real challenge against the Carolina pass rush. I'm going to go with a little bit low hanging fruit, I suppose, here. here in Julian Love, just because he gave up one of the 2 touchdowns that the Seahawks allowed on the defensive side of the ball here. It was an ugly missed tackle. That DJ Chark was able to kind of elude Julian Love, and at least in the telecast, they described it as perhaps the Seahawks were a little bit confused. It looked like some of the other defensive backs were playing zone coverage, and others might have been playing a man. It should be noted that just a couple of plays earlier, Trey Brown had gone out with an injury. Mike Jackson comes in to take over for him, so that might have contributed to some of it. But the reality is that Julian Love was the man who did miss the tackle of DJ Chark that got Carolina the touchdown that gave them that halftime lead. He also had a costly personal foul penalty when he hit Andy Dalton early in the game. He did play better in the second half. So kind of like Stone Forsythe, you take the bad with the good a little bit here, but definitely he was somebody that I thought has not had the immediate impact I think the Seahawks fans were hoping for when they signed him from the New York Giants.
Yeah, you do expect better from Julian Love, the veteran coming over from New York. He's had an up and down start to his Seahawks tenure. Excuse me, for sure. So my third down player is Jackson Smith-Njigba, and not that he cost the Seahawks the game or had this like epic horrible moment. Just he hasn't really been a factor. And now 1 catch for 10 yards, 3 targets, and then over the 3 games, 9 catches, 57 yards, no touchdowns. I mean, really. We came into this year thinking, all right, could the Seahawks have, 2 guys with 1,000 yards and maybe even a third flirt with 1,000 yards? And I'm not saying he can't get there now, but he's got some ground to make up, and he hasn't had that instant impact, at least on the box score of a first-round wide receiver. And of course, there's plenty of time for this comment to just look silly later on down the season. And maybe he's still getting his sea legs in him a little bit, and that's not to say he's not opening up lanes for the tight ends or Metcalf and Lockett to have their own catches. So maybe he's making more of an impact unseen. But as far as the straight box score numbers, Jackson Smith-Njigba for a 3rd straight game really has not been a huge factor in the passing game.
I have to agree with you. I think that if we flip things around and Jake Bobo had been the 1st-round pick with his huge catch in today's game and Jackson Smith-Njigba was the undrafted free agent, then maybe people wouldn't be complaining. But I don't see a lot of Jake Bobo jerseys in the stands, but you see a lot of number 11s out there. And so certainly hoping to see a little bit more from JSN moving forward. Well, Nick, it was a blast talking a little bit of ball with you on a Seahawks victory Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me. You can follow Nick on Twitter at NickLee51. You can follow me at Rob Rang. Subscribe or follow Locked On Seahawks for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts for the latest episode as soon as it's available. Thanks, and go Hawks.